You like seeing stuff more than not seeing stuff? I know I do. If so, then check out TNVC.com for all your seeing stuff needs, because we'll be seeing you tonight.
Howdy folks, I'm Jeff Gonzalez with AR15.com. Today, our O.S.D video comes from a recent mass shooting here in Texas. Let's roll the video. Welcome to our new series, O.S.D. O.S.D stands for Observational Skills Development and is a series designed to explore defensive gun use by giving you a breakdown of skills you should be developing. In this video, we have probably the worst scenario imaginable: an open space with little cover, longer than average shots, and reduced target due to what appears to be armor. Now, this isn't the first mass shooting, and it will not be the last. No amount of legislation or good intentions will stop the evil in some people's hearts. The best course of action is to be prepared, alert, and able to respond to protect life. All right, in this video, we identified two major skill sets that we want to work on. First is going to be cover. I need to know what cover is. I need to be able to define it, know what it is, know what it's not. I also need to understand that cover is temporary and that with time, with ballistics impacting that cover, it's going to degrade. And lastly is movement to the cover. It's very unlikely I'm going to start off behind this cover. I'm going to have to make my way to that cover. So I need to know how to move quickly to the cover and move into a position to where I can immediately return effective fire. But I also need to think about, hey, I may not want to always be moving forward, closing the distance on the attacker. I might want to actually move back. So I need to be aware of where my last piece of cover was. Now that rolls us into shooting at distance. I know statistically that it's not a very high probability unless you're in one of these, fringe events. These fringe events are happening more and more, so we might need to start rethinking what we consider to be a reasonable expectation as far as our accuracy standards. So that brings up, what are some of my goals? What should my expectations be? Well, headshots at 25 and body shots at 50, to me, seems reasonable. And what that also does is that it helps us to understand the relationship between target size, so reduced target. So if I can't shoot at 50 yards, maybe what I need to start working on is start working at those reduced targets at the 25-yard line. And what that allows me to do is to allow the situation to dictate. In this case, the suspect had what appeared to be armor, so maybe instead of starting with body shots, I immediately go to the headshot. But I have the skill, having practiced that, to do that. I might go headshots first, then body shots, then headshots, and I might just immediately combine them all together in one little kind of response. The other thing that we realize is that as we start to look at distance and these reduced targets, hey, maybe I am not as good a shot as I thought. Well, what can I do to try to improve my accuracy? What are some things that I can do? Yes, of course, you could shoot a little bit more. Yes, you can develop skills. Yes, of course, you can consider equipment. But something else is shooting positions, braced or supported shooting positions. So you've got kneeling positions, you've got supine and prone, and a couple of other positions that you might want to start to include in your training repertoire, because these might actually be helpful when distance is an issue. So let's take all this information, let's head out to the range and see how it all unfolds. All right, so we're out at the range. We're gonna be going over two of the skills that we observed from our video. The first one is gonna be using cover. We're gonna be moving from the 20 up to the 10. We'll do that a couple times. Then we're gonna move down to the target. We're gonna move from the target back to the 10. So we're gonna get kind of a dual kind of approach to how best to handle cover in the real world. Should I always be thinking moving forward, or should I be thinking about moving back? Then we're gonna move back to the 25. We're gonna do some headshots at the 25. We're gonna push to the 50. We're gonna do body shots standing at the 50. Then we're gonna add a little positional work at the 50 for those body shots to see if they make a difference as far as our accuracy. All right, let's check it out. Stand by. All right, shooter. Make sure you shoot on your target. Yes, sir. All right, here we go. Stand by. Feel as though I need to add a qualifier. Don't hurt yourself. Stand by. Decock and holster up. 474. Decock and holster up. 552. 451. Stand by. Performance issues, you know, let's just say that heightened activity is forcing you not to think about the shooting aspect, because we're only at the 10-yard line, right? And so the one thing that I would tell you is that only shoot as fast as you can guarantee the hits, both of you. Because over here, not bad. You can see what that double action trigger pull can do for you. You can also see what a single action trigger pull can do, because this was a single action. Yeah. So don't worry about little Susie down the road. I'm sure, you know.
Life insurance policy.
Well, you know, you'll pay for, you know, her funeral one way or another. But that also is a very important thing that we need to remind ourselves, is that, you know, we're responsible legally and morally for every projectile we fire. So while we might joke a little bit about this, the reality is that if you had missed in real world in that mass shooting event, this is either going to hit someone or something.
Yep.
All right, so we definitely have to always be mindful of that. Okay, let's tape it up and do it from target back. Stand by.
Ah, dang it. Work through it. Oh, it took me forever.
$853. Decock and holster. All right, Paul, you're up.
Yep, time.
Sorry, 890, 8.90. Good. Go ahead and head on down.
Time.
649. 666.
Whoa.
Number of the beast. And relax. All right, let's head down. 658. Paul, you were really consistent on your times. You were right about 6.5 seconds. Josh, I know we had to cut out that first one because of that outlier, but I think you're right at about 8 seconds, right? So Paul, your first run, you were pushing 4.5 seconds, and now with the running this direction, you're 6.5 seconds. So it's about a 2-second difference. Now for you, I think you were at 6 seconds on the first run running to the target, and you're about 8 seconds when you're running away from the target. So it almost is the exact same, 2 seconds for each of you. All right, so the difference between running back the same distance, running forward is about 2 seconds. Now, obviously that can make a big difference in the gunfight, but it's not as dramatic as probably a lot of people think. Shooting got a little bit better. Josh, I think that the ones that you missed, these guys were the last shot single action, right? And there's 2 reasons that I think you're having that. Number one, the single action is probably little novelty to you, but no follow through. Like you're breaking that gun down as soon as that primer breaks, you're already breaking the gun down.
I see.
Right? So the fact that you're actually already breaking the gun down is actually lowering the sight before the shot breaks. So if there's any trigger issue, we're not able to see it because you're literally bringing the gun off the target before the round leaves the bullet or the round leaves the barrel. All right, let's go ahead and take. Now we're gonna do some headshots. All right, Paul. 278. 246. 236. Shooter standby. 192. 194. All right, so now we're gonna do body shots, same drill, 1 round. 2.0. Stand by.
Oh,
1.67. Stand by. 1.85. Stand by. 1.91. Stand by. 1.79. All right, good job, shooter. Holster up. 1 round to the head. Stand by. 3.18. Follow through. Stand by. 3.23. Stand by. 3.16. Stand by. 3.10. Stand by. 3.08. All right. So now we're gonna go body shots. Same drill, 1 round. 2.92. These are body shots.
Body shot.
Stand by. 2.68. Stand by. 2.65. Stand by. 2.17. Stand by. 2.53. Obviously, the time was more, right? Because it's taking a little bit longer to be more precise. And the body shots were less. So the difference for you, Paul, I think was about 3/4 of a second. The difference for you, Josh, was about a second, right? Now, let's look at the accuracy. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We've got like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, that's right. You had the reload, so you should have 6 in here.
Yeah.
So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right. So let's talk quickly about. You can see that your headshot hit ratio. You probably could have taken more time, and if you had taken more time, you might have not, threw that shot in the white, but you might have gotten better hits.
Yeah.
Then you can see the real difference between just going for body shots quickly compared to how much time you really should be taking to get good headshots. So in other words, if I told you that if you missed that shot, you were gonna die, you probably would have taken more time.
Yeah.
Right? And Josh, same with you. Because you're having to work that double action, you can see that your double action misses are always gonna be low and left, right? With this gun, you don't necessarily have to worry about rubbing the frame, but you do have to worry about not putting a finger on the trigger. So if you're edging the trigger, you're gonna continue to see that left windage issue. The low issue is just gonna take time for you to work on, but you can remedy the windage issue for sure. All right, let's tape them, and then we'll go back to the 50. That's where the fun begins. Woo! 4.01. 3.75. 4.04. 6.63. 6.52. 5.09. All right, so everything I heard from you guys as far as like what you saw, I'm not surprised. A couple things. The amount, and obviously our hands are super sweaty, so the regripping is big, but both of you guys would come off your sights after the first shot and look at the target and then come back for the second shot, right? So that was something that you guys did routinely. I think also there was a lot of inconsistency in the actual shots themselves, like when you were breaking the shot.
Yeah.
And a lot of that inconsistency was rather than finding the dot and squeezing the trigger, you guys were trying to perfect the dot,
right? Trying to force the dot to go where you want it to. And you got to just, whether you're using iron sights or a red dot, it's always going to be your first best sight picture. As soon as the dot settles, good trigger control, let it break, recover, let it break. So here, Paul, honestly, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So you only drop 2 completely. The rest are on the torso. And that's kind of what we were talking about. Like, we wanted to be able to get hits on the torso at 50 yards, right? That's our goal. So you really only drop 2 there. And then out of that, you got 1 inside the 8 ring, 2 cut in the line. Not bad. So Josh, you can clearly see the difference between double action and single action, right? This is most likely your double action, and this is your single action, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 single action, 1, 2, or double action, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 single action. Very common in the beginning when a new shooter transitions to that double action. There's a lot going through your head, but these guys probably went a little bit low because of the distance, right? Because we were zeroed at the 25-yard line. So when we move back to the 50-yard line, that 4-inch drop probably is right on, right? So these are all good shots. They're just low because of your, the actual flight path. These guys were just, that's a really hard trigger slap. And then this is your double action, right?
Double action at 50 yards. That's double action at 50 is a little tough.
It is, but I'll tell you something that it really, what you can focus on as you're doing that is the trigger's movement for double action, whether you're at the 5 or the 50, is always going to be the same. That initial movement of the trigger is always the same, and it's not until the very end that it actually slows enough for the precision required. If it's at 5 yards, it's not slowing at all. If it's at beyond a certain distance, then you will have to slow that last incremental part of your trigger pull just so that you can ensure that the sight is where you want it.
You'll probably see it on there where I pulled most of it out, waited, and then tried to crack it off. So I was trying to do
this right here was you wanting it to go now.
Yeah.
Because you saw the sight where you wanted it and you wanted it to go right then and there, right? Paul, for these guys, like these ones up here that I, what I see when I see something like this at that 50-yard line, this is the wanting to come off the gun in between the shots.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? So that you're coming off so even if you didn't come off the sights, your body is still mimicking that action because you've kind of programmed it to do it. So what happens is we're actually moving the gun before we actually get out there. That's one problem.
Okay.
Or these high shots could be the gun, you reset the trigger in that recoil arc and the sights hadn't been recovered back to the target.
One of them was definitely, I shot, and as I was recovering, I did a little circle, and I broke it too early.
Perfect.
It kind of settled
See,
again.
because that, to me, is more valuable than the shot missing here. The fact that you know that the shot broke up here, right? That's huge.
One of them.
One of them,
Yeah.
right. And honestly, Josh, could you call which shot that was? Yeah, so that again is another very, very important. Another reason why I love shooting at distance is because it helps to promote shot calling. Right? In other words, it helps promote the shooter to be so in tune with what's happening at that precise moment that they're able to recognize, not necessarily, because when you do things right, nothing really stands out in the brain.
Right.
It's when you do something wrong that you start to recognize that, and that's what helps us in that progression. So
That might have been
overall,
the last
not
one. I
bad.
remember feeling awful. I was like, oh, that was trash.
Yeah.
I remember feeling that.
All right, let's tape them.
Cool.
Let's tape them. Hey, Josh, standing to kneeling, supported kneeling. This is 2 to the body. Shooter, stand by. .57. 10.26. Standing to supported kneeling, the par time is 7.5 seconds for 2 rounds, right? For standing to prone 2 rounds, it's 11 seconds. So you're kind of at the prone time more than the support. Now, because you're going into supported, it does take a little bit more time. The 7.5 is any kneeling position, not just supported. So it could be any. So obviously, if you're trying to take more time to get in supported, it may cost you in that. But you know, we have plenty of guys that still make that 7.5 second part time.
I'm taking so much time on that double action.
Yeah.
Like I feel myself.
It's not the double action that's really hurting you. You're breaking your first shot right around the 8 second mark.
Okay.
Yeah, your first shot on this last one was 6.7, but the other ones were right around the 8 second mark, right? You you want to be spending about 4 to 4.5 seconds getting into position, and then that gives you about 2 to 2.5 seconds for those shots at distance. Safety. 8.16. 5.81. 6.03 as the common denominator, the hit, right? What does it take to generate a hit under both conditions? And then to try to evaluate what that really translates to as far as time, okay? So, Paul, let's start with you. Let's do, so we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yep, you're all right. You threw one completely off, but you knew that. We're on the torso here, you know, and you got a nice kind of like vertical string almost going right here. That's not bad. And again, at the 50-yard line, I would expect if you're aiming here, our shots to be at about that 3 to 4 inch drop-ish. So, you know, you add a little extra for poor trigger control, and it's not bad. It's actually pretty good. Then Josh, so we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it looks like you dropped 5 completely from that kneeling. So that kneeling was not stable for you in any way, shape, or form. But that also means that you probably need to work on your positions, your kneeling position, to try to improve it. And sometimes it's just, it's a matter of mobility for a lot of guys. You know, it's like as we get older, the range of motion and our flexibility just starts to tank. So you start to come to the you know, you start to come to the understanding that, okay, that position shooting is just not something I'm gonna be able to do, right? Unless, and I always tell people this, unless somebody's shooting at you, in which case, yeah, positions are gonna work.
Sure.
You'll get into that position.
We'll figure it out.
You'll be motivated to get down there. All right, so Paul, the difference between your standing and your kneeling, as far as time was concerned, was only about 2 seconds, right? But your hit ratio, even though we dropped 1 completely off the target, you dropped 2 off the target here. Yeah. Technically, you had a better hit ratio with that supported because you only dropped 1 completely off the paper.
Right.
All right, so I'm kind of thinking that supported position actually did help you to improve, and you can kind of see a better grouping with that supported, right? So there's that. So we have that kind of insight. Definitely your standing was better, right? That's the takeaway that we walk away. We can't really do as good of a side-by-side comparison as we did with Paul, but we can take away that the fact that, okay, right now, I need to rely more heavily on my standing shooting until my positional shooting is brought up to a usable level. So
we don't wait for our best group. We show what we actually shot.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly it. No sandbagging here.
Well,
all right.
It also wouldn't be much of a lesson if we were just
killing
everything in the 8 zone. Hey, great. So
patting ourselves on the back.
Exactly.
Yeah. I agree. But the problem too that we run into is that, and this is a logistical and realistic kind of issue. And we're very fortunate that we can step back to the 50-yard line. Right. Not a lot of people can. Not a lot of people have that opportunity.
Or be able to get into a kneeling position at an indoor range.
Yeah, exactly. That's another hard part. If even at close range distance, getting into a kneeling, that's not a very common thing. So, you know, positional work is one of the essential skills that we see for your overall gunfighting ability, is being able to take advantage of positions. Not because positions help to stabilize our position, we did see that with you, but because we want to be able to assume whatever form of cover is presented to me in that gunfight. And that's the real reason why positional shooting is so important. That's why instead of telling you, hey, blow it off, don't worry about it, I don't want you to not be able to take advantage of a piece of cover because you don't have good positional shooting technique. So let's debrief what we saw on the range. When it comes to cover, Whether you're moving forward, moving back, it's not gonna make as big a difference as you might think. While there was a difference in time, that difference was mainly as each of the shooters was trying to navigate around the obstacle. If you don't have to navigate around an obstacle, moving forward, moving back becomes a little less of a concern. As we transition to those headshots, here's the thing. You've got to be very, very confident that you can make that headshot, especially as we start to increase distance. If there's any doubt, you're probably going to want to favor more towards the body. That doesn't mean you don't work headshots. It just means you need to be confident that you can make those headshots as you start to extend those distances. Then as we move back in distance and we get real big distance like the 50-yard line, if you haven't done any work from a position, you might want to start doing it now. And the big reason behind that, yes, it's going to help stabilize your platform so you can hopefully be more accurate. But what it really does is it allows you to assume various forms of cover that you find in the real world. All right, let's head back to the studio. All right, folks, that wraps up this episode of O.S.D. Work on your techniques in isolation, then combine them into your own super drill. If you have videos you think would be great for us to cover, email them to me at osd@ar15.com. Make sure you subscribe, like, and share these videos with folks far and wide. Until then, I'm Jeff Gonzalez. Thanks for tuning in. Stay safe